Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the Montreal ComicCon stage the one, the only, the original Captain Kirk, Mr. William Shatner.
Thank you. Je voulais parler français, mais mon vocabulaire est tout perdu. Quel dommage. It has to be in English, but we'll get by. So, thank you for your welcome. Thank you for coming in. I'll take questions in a minute. We'll have fun together, but I just wanted to tell you about my coming to Montreal this time. It was interesting for me. In the years that I lived here, and I lived here until I was graduated from McGill, Montreal has changed so much that I'll tell you, 21, you're an adult. I can't find my way around Montreal. I'm lost. So I drove in. We rented a car, my wife Elizabeth and I, and drove in from Toronto because we were there to go see a horse. And I'll tell you about that in a second. So we drove on the 401. And I remember when I used to drive from Montreal to Toronto, where I worked for several years, I'd take Highway 2 and go along the river and see the villages. But now they had built 401 so that they would expedite your trip from Toronto to Montreal. You get here much faster instead of going along Highway 2 and stopping off at Brockville to eat, or Kingston, or all those cities that they had to move from the river side because the St. Lawrence was being dammed up during the time. The damn St. Lawrence River. And so we went along the 401 to save time. Those of you who are laughing have driven the 401 from Toronto to Montreal. It's locked up every 15 miles. You can't go. And some Canadian, because I got off, I saw an exit, and I thought, I'm going to go to Highway 2. I was given the Canadian salute. They thought I was number one. As I went by on the side of some guy who was, hey! 401 is like, it's primitive. What happened? It's like a smooth highway, and then it stops. And and then I was in a rental car, and I was following directions. I finally got off, and I got into, so I needed René Lévesque. And I found René Lévesque, but my gas tank in this rental car was empty, and you have to fill the tank with gas before you hand back the rental car. I couldn't find a gas station. So I said to Elizabeth, I'll circle around. There's got to be a gasoline station somewhere downtown. And I kept circling around. And I ended back on Marcel Avenue, corner of Gerrard and Montland, where I was brought up. I was back in my childhood. And I still couldn't find a gasoline station. So I ended up in Snowden. And then I got to a gasoline station there, and I got it open, and I put our card through the thing, and it said something in French which I couldn't understand because there were words that I'd never heard before, like don't do this or something. And I kept trying and pushing and pulling, and it wouldn't. And finally, I went to the guy manning it, and he said, "We don't take American credit cards in the machine." He said, "How much gasoline are you going to buy?" "I don't know, I want to fill the tank up." I said, "How much gasoline is that?" "I don't know. I just want to fill the tank." So I got into that. I mean, it was horrible. I couldn't. And I must tell you, the reason for driving the car instead of coming straight from Los Angeles to Montreal was I had been in Lexington, Kentucky, at the Kentucky State Fair, which is the second largest state fair in the States, where they held the World Championship Saddlebred show, which Elizabeth and I were competing in. And part of that competition was not just saddlebreds, but standardbreds, trotting horses. And I've become quite good at guiding a trotting horse and sitting behind in a sulky. And we have lots of fast horses going around, and you have to do certain things to win. And I've always been beaten by this horse called Mr. Bones. 5 long years, I came in second to Mr. Bones. 2 weeks ago, in an extraordinary piece of luck, I'm coming up behind Mr. Bones in a sulky, and I'm thinking, I can take Mr. Bones, I can sweep by him on a sharp curve, and you can't trot out of the sharp curve, because you could lose then. I came around Mr. Bones, I spun sawdust into his face, and I didn't trot out of the turn, and I won World Grand Championship in Lexington, Kentucky. So, we were in Ontario looking at another trotting horse who was a relative to Mr. Bones, and he wasn't good enough for me to buy, so we drove on 401 back here. And I didn't spin sawdust into anybody's face on 401. Anyway, that's how I came to Montreal in the last couple of days, and I got lost in this gorgeous city. Montreal has become a destination city for people all over the world. You live in a spectacular city, and every place I went, it was filled with charm and grace and art and civilization and culture. It is Montreal, and I've hosted the comedy festival twice over the years, and the jazz festival, comedy festival, and all that. Montreal has become an extraordinary city. It may be the greatest city in the world. It could very well be. On the other hand, Toronto may be the great. No. Yes, boo. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. I'll take questions, see, and then you'll ask me a question, and maybe I'll answer it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll riff on it. Maybe I won't hear it. So let's start with a question and see where it takes us. Who's got the microphone?
Questions over here.
No. Okay, over there. Give me a question.
Well, of course, Montreal is the greatest city in the world.
Of
because
course.
that's where you were born.
That's exactement ça. C'est vrai ça. On sait ça. Ça c'est vrai.
Mr. Shatner.
Yes.
I want to thank you. Thank you for 42 years of Star Trek.
Oh,
Where I come...
why are you reading that? Why did you from à la cœur?
Oh, you'll see, it's going to come from the heart.
From the heart.
Because where I come from,
Yes.
my family,
Yes.
the word hope doesn't make much sense. But when I'm watching Star Trek, I understand what hope is all about.
Oh my goodness, that's touching. Thank you.
This year, I'll be the first college graduate in my family. For this and everything that will happen in my life, I say thank you.
Fantastic. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. That is very beautiful. Where are you going? Don't go away. Don't go away. Come back. Because that because you got a college education, you know, that was a statement. Où est la question?
I will not ask a question to a legend.
What did you study in university?
I did a bachelor in law degree.
Bachelor of law. Are you a lawyer?
No.
Should have gone to McGill. So what do you do?
Well, I'm going to do a master in law, but I will not become a lawyer. I will probably be a labor union relation officer.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, every day when I think about leadership, I'm thinking about you.
Okay. Thank you. Next question.
Just wanted to say I'm extremely honored to be in the same room with you. It's
Well, thank you.
a tremendous honor.
I don't mind hearing that, but a question would be really nice.
The question is, I, like you, I'm from Montreal and moved to Toronto and went on to other things. And I want to know if you still have a special connection and family in the city that you come to visit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. I tell you, I've got a problem here. I've got so many family, I can't deal with them. In fact, my family is so diverse and diffused and multifaceted that I've got my family came here 100 years ago on the boat and settled in Montreal, and there's a large number of Shatners and Shatner relatives. Hundreds of us are around, a big family. And so when I come into town and I say to someone, let's have dinner, it's like we got to go to St. Urban's Park or something or other. You know, we got to go on the mountain and have a meeting. It's huge. So I don't mix with the family. I mean, how do you deal with a large family if you come in once in a while? So I have two sisters here, one older, one younger. They have a large family, and their family has family. So it makes a logistical problem. For example, I was doing some publicity for the show, for this ComicCon some days ago, and I gave an interview, and I talked sort of without thinking about an uncle of mine, and I hurt some people's feelings, and I want to apologize just right out loud that if I hurt their feelings because I was looking for color, that I want to apologize if any of them are here today, that I didn't mean that. I love my family. So we have a large family here, and my connections with Montreal go way back. I mean, I played in the streets on Marseille Avenue. I have a company, Canadian company. I call it the Marseille Gang. That's the name of the company. Because on Marseille, which is Girard and Moncton, just down a couple of streets, and it's totally changed. When there used to be the Moncton Theater, and I think that my interest in movies and the magic of the film came from sneaking into the Moncton Theater as a teenager and sitting there for 3 shows. Like I'd go there in the afternoon, and then late at night my parents would be looking for me and know that I was in the Moncton Theater watching the magic of movies. And then just down the street, down Girard, I went to a school, a kind of kids school for drama, for acting, and there were two ladies who ran the school, and we do plays at the park at Westmount on Sherburne, and that's where I learned to perform on stage, and then I did all those musicals and straight plays and radio at McGill. And then I was in Montreal. I did all kinds of amateur theatrics all over Montreal. And then I worked vaguely, peripherally with the Théâtre du Nouveau Monde. And then I worked on French radio for a little bit. And then on the CBC. I worked at the CBC. So my connections with Montreal are deep and abiding. And I came back and I went out in a caleche yesterday. I went out on a caleche with Patrick Stewart. So Patrick Stewart and his fiancée and my wife and I, unbeknownst to any of you, we were going around downtown Montreal, going in old Montreal in a caleche. And Pierre was giving us the history, and it was like new. I don't know whether any of you, I mean, I am a Montrealer, and I knew nothing of what Pierre was saying. Like what are we going to do with those grain buildings, the big granaries that exist that nobody knows what to do with, the big cement walls? You know what I'm talking about? What are we going to do with them? Why are we going to paint them? Why do we paint them? We could paint them red or something. We've got to do something with those buildings. They're too monumental not to just to lie there and rot. We have to do something with those buildings. We've got to come up with that. We should run a contest on what to do with those buildings. Star Trek, yeah. Star Trek Museum. It's not big enough. So Montreal has grown, Montreal has enriched, and I think of myself at times as being a Montrealer. I love Montreal. No kidding. Next question.
I'm sure your family is extremely proud of you.
Oh, I hope so. Next question.
What do you enjoy working more in, comedy or science fiction?
Well, science fiction is pretty funny. Comedy, ordinarily, people who don't work in theater and are actors or writers, and not in the show business, think of comedy as being different from drama, and it really isn't. Everything is timing. All of life is timing, but certainly how you deliver words and sentences and things like that, the actor has to have timing. And there is a comic spirit. Do you know that commercial with that baby who throws things at Jimmy Fallon? Do you know that funny-faced little baby the commercial has been on? Do you get it here? No. Yes? I hear yes or no. All right. So on television, Jimmy Fallon is doing a commercial for money or something like that, and there's a kid in a high chair, and the kid throws something. The kid has the funniest face. The kid is naturally, when that child grows up, that child's going to be a comic, because that's a naturally funny person. In fact, this one-man show that I've been doing, and that I went on Broadway with, and toured toured Canada, toured Australia. I'm going back out in America in November and January to do another 20 cities in the States. I talk about comedy, and I talk about what's funny and what's not funny. And I just think drama and comedy are the same thing. There's a comic spirit that emerges in comedy. And it's nothing you can point at. It's nothing you can say, nothing you can do. I don't know how you say to somebody, that's funny and that's not funny. It's just there's something inside the actor who is naturally funny or not. And some of us are and some of us aren't. In the one-man show, I point out that George Takei is not funny. But you have to see the film to understand. Next question.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. See, that's so Canadian. I asked somebody how they felt. You want to hear a Canadian reply? Not bad. How many of you say, how are you feeling? Not bad. Well, is that good or bad? Stop being so Canadian. You feel good? Not bad. Exactly. So Canadian. What's your question?
Mr. Shatner, 7
Yes.
years ago, I injured my ears and I've been suffering from tinnitus ever since.
Yes.
I initially had a lot of trouble coping with it until I found out you also suffer
Tinnitus?
Tinnitus, correct.
Oh my gosh.
And I want to thank you for helping me cope with it because I saw how successful you managed with that condition.
Oh.
I wanted to know if you could share with us a little bit on how you cope with it early on, how you're doing now.
I will. That's an interesting question I've never spoken about. I have a ringing in my ears. Again, on the one-man show, the line is, "Doctor, I have a ringing in my ears." Doctor says, "Don't answer it." Old burlesque joke. So one day, I'm walking along the beach, which you can do in Los Angeles, but you can't on the 401. And I thought I heard the sound of the waves, that hiss that they make when they go out to sea. And I thought, wow, that's a loud hiss. But it wasn't the sea. It never went away. I had this hiss in my head, and it got louder and louder. And I began to panic. I began to think, this is never going to go away, and I'm going to go insane, and I'll never be able to concentrate, I'll never be able to sleep, and I won't be able to act. And I really panicked. And I went in search of a cure. And I tried a hearing aid, I tried niacin, I tried medicine, there's nothing I could do. And I felt suicidal, actually. I thought, if I can't sleep, I'm going to die. And I'd rather die by my own hand. And I had thoughts of suicide. Then I found a doctor in Maryland, a city in Maryland. And he was a doctor who attended to people with tinnitus. And I said, "How do you know about tinnitus?" He said, "Because I have it." And I said, "Did it bother you as much as it bothers you?" He says, "Well, it only bothers me when I talk about it." He was a doctor who was curing people or helping people with tinnitus. So obviously he talked about it every day. So the man was going nuts. They put a sound thing, white sound in my ear, and they tried, as I spoke to them, to find the quality of sound, the timbre of the sound that was in my head. And they had machines and they played, and finally they found it. And it was such a connection that they could hear what I alone could hear, that I started to weep. And apparently everybody does, because they have the Kleenex right there. So they found the timbre of my sound, and what they did was they had a hearing aid sort of thing, which made that sound. And I was to wear it for a few hours a day as I habituated to the sound. I wore it 24 hours. Being an A personality, I wore it 24 hours a day. And you're supposed to tune it almost to the limit of the sound in your head. And you habituate. And in 3 months, I sort of got used to it in the same way a city person gets used to the traffic. When somebody from the country comes to Montreal, and they say, "Oh my God, I don't know how you stand it. There's sirens and streetcars and buses," and the city person saying, "Oh no, I don't hear it." That's habituation. And that's what happens in tinnitus. The only cure is habituation. So I became attached to the American Tinnitus Association, became their spokesman, and tried to raise money for the ATA, the American Tinnitus Association. So I would make cold calls to people that the doctors told me were their patients. It was sort of a unethical thing, but I was trying to raise money. And I went in front of Congress, American Congress, by the way, apropos of that, to raise money from the National Institute of Health to get money for research on how to cure it. So I would make cold calls to people who had tinnitus. And it's such a dangerous condition that it is exemplified, dramatized by a guy I called who said, call me back next week, I'll give you a lot of money for research. And the following week I called him, and his wife answered the phone, and he had committed suicide as a result of the tinnitus. Tinnitus is a very insidious condition, and tell the people who have it, because it's quite common, especially among veterans who have had loud sounds, musicians, engineers, sound engineers. It's that ringing in the ears we all get every so often, but those of us with tinnitus, that ringing in the ears doesn't go away. And there is hope, great deal of hope. I'm the example of the hope in that I don't hear it unless I'm talking about it, and I hear it now. But I'm going to stop talking about it right now, and then I won't hear it.
Has it gotten better with the years?
No, it doesn't get better. You have to make up your mind that it's not going to get better. If anything, it'll stay the same or get worse. But you don't hear it. You forget about it. And when I was asked originally what quality, how much of my life was involved in tinnitus, I'd say 90%. And then as I got habituated, it went down, and finally I don't hear it.
Do you sleep
I
with
sleep
a sound
at night.
machine?
I'm sorry?
Do you sleep with a sound generator?
No, I don't need it. Used to keep the television set on. Don't need it anymore. It's all gone away purportedly, unless I'm talking about it, and you're driving me nuts.
Thank you.
Next question.
I'm with Mr. Shatner.
Yes.
I like Star Trek 4.
Do you like Star Trek 4?
I do. It's my favorite movie.
Oh. What happened to Star Trek 5?
Well, do you like whales?
I love whales. I'm involved with whales. I have a whale named after me. No, I'm named after a whale. No, how's a whale? There's a whale bearing my name, like there's a star somewhere up there that was named after me. Nobody has those documents, but that's what I bought.
I admire you as a fan.
What, you admire me as a fan?
I am your fan, yeah.
Oh, I'm very pleased and grateful. Is that the nature of your question?
Yes.
All right, well, let me talk about whales.
Okay.
Whales are large animals, you know.
Yeah.
And we don't know the limit of their intelligence. You know they sing songs. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
They sing songs and change the songs. Not only do they change the songs over a period of time, they change the songs over their lifetime.
Yeah.
They sing, they're like Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra. They just keep changing songs. And their songs can be heard thousands of miles. Did you know that?
I think I do.
And do you know that they're making a comeback? Are you aware of that?
I don't have a clue.
Do you know that they eat, for the most part, they eat plankton and plankton. Yes, I was going to say plankton, but I just, because of my aging brain, I was reaching for the word. Plankton. They're harmless. They're beautiful. They are part of nature, and we destroyed them for the longest time. Okay?
Okay.
Now that the oceans are warming, there's more krill because the oceans are warming, and the whales are coming back slowly but surely. Except the countries like Japan are still killing them. So we must be aware that there is an intelligent being in the ocean, and that there are certain nations killing them. And we must be aware that we must send letters and voice our disapproval of the killing of whales.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question. What was the question? Next question.
My question is about the Twilight Zone episode,
Yes.
Nick of Time. What was it like to work on that episode?
Well, I was a young actor then, so many years ago. And doing that show, it was very much just like a job. And I mean, I hate to discourage you, to disappoint you. But Twilight Zone was like a little weird. And the actors who played on it would say, I'm going to do that weird show called Twilight Zone. It's not going to be around very long. And it's a half hour, it pays very well. And so they invited me to do it. And it was fun. I did two, and the two of them are sort of remained alive. The other one being this thing on the airplane. 2 Twilight Zones. But it was very much like a job. And Rod Serling was a guy like up in an office. I never really saw him. So over the years, I've been asked about Twilight Zone, and all I could come up with is he was like a cool customer. He never really involved himself on the set, and I had fun playing the segment you're talking about, and even more fun on the wing of the airplane thing, where the guy on the airplane sees something on the wing that nobody else can see, and that has remained a universal as well. And I don't really quite understand why, except that the fear of flying is sort of intrinsic in us. You get on an airplane, you think, if God meant for us to fly, He'd give us wings. So here we are going up, and especially on Air Canada. And every so often I fly with my daughters, okay? And my daughters say, Dad, do the look. So I'm flying in the airplane, here's the window. No, here's the window. And the daughters who are around me say, Ma'am, could you come over here, please? And what do we call them now? The air attendant, the flight attendant comes over, and I'm looking out the window, and I go, and my daughters all start laughing, and the stewardess kicks us off the airplane. It was just a job at the time, but I'm very grateful that you think about it so many years later.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, Mr. Sorry.
That's my name.
Mr. Shatner.
That's okay. You're all right.
I'm very nervous.
No, don't be nervous.
I grew up watching you.
Oh, I grew up watching you. Well, it may not have been you, but I grew up watching girls.
You're looking rather ravishing tonight.
What?
You're looking rather ravishing.
What, ravishing?
Yes.
Woo! That's a word I haven't heard in weeks.
So you're quite active.
You better believe it, honey.
I just wondered how you keep in shape.
Say that again.
How do you keep your physique and you maintain your
I don't know what you're talking about. How do I do that? Well, I tell you, I ride a lot of horses. I'm involved in 3 disciplines in horses: reiners, saddlebreds, which are show horses, and these standardbreds I've been talking about. And in order to be in shape to do that, I use a warm water, run in place in a warm swimming pool, lift weights, and I haven't been able to run or walk recently because I've got a pinched nerve in my back, and maybe from riding, but I went to see a doctor not so long ago, and one of these days I'm going to have a small operation and relieve the pressure on the nerve, and then my legs will be better. But it doesn't interfere with my riding or getting around or anything like that, but there is a condition I got to relieve, but it's relievable. But I work out almost every day. Look at you, honey.
I want to see you.
Yeah, you want to see me? Such big muscles, I can't get my sleeve back.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you, dear. I'll try very hard. I'm getting older as we speak. Next question?
Hey, Bill, welcome to Montreal.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah. I'm actually wearing a suit today because right after this, I gotta go get a picture of you and Patrick after.
Oh, great.
But
we'll look forward to seeing you there.
I couldn't not wear a suit next to you, man. I mean, I'm gonna look terrible next to the living legend, so I'm gonna have to.
No, you look great. Maybe I can wear your jacket.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
We could switch.
No.
Okay. Well, basically, what I wanted to say was, even in throughout my life, I've known of Star Trek, but I love Shatner's Raw Nerve. I think it's the most fantastic talk show I've ever seen.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
How did you get your guests to come on and talk about all this personal stuff without them being random hillbillies who throw chairs at each other?
Well, I tell you, I've been doing. I somehow got into the idea of talk. Let me start from the beginning. My family, my kids and my wife, and we have dinner together a lot. And we always used to say it wasn't a real dinner until somebody was crying at the table. Right? We'd ask questions, what are you doing, why are you doing it, get out, and they talk, and finally they would relieve themselves with crying, and everybody would go, oh, great, it's a good meal. Seriously, a lot of conversation. I love to find out about people. So I was asked if I would do a talk show. And I said, well, I don't want to do a talk show, but what I would love to do is get inside people's minds, souls. And so they gave me the opportunity. It takes time to meet a stranger, and essentially those people were, and find a way of getting them to open up. So we film an hour to an hour and a half for a 25-minute show. And in that time that we mostly edit out, I'm talking about anything. I did an interview with a guy who had some papers in his breast pocket, and I just asked about the papers in the breast pocket, so bills and things that well, what's the bill for, and why did you get that? And suddenly we're talking about something that interests him, and a connection is made. And then looking at the body language, and I designed a set whereby the chairs were like an S-curve, so that I was within 18 inches, which is, to me, the bubble that everybody has around them. It's about 18 inches. It's a bubble of protection that anybody that violates this distance is aggressive, and you're leaning back. That's too aggressive. But that distance, you can see the eyes, and you're close enough to see the pupils contract and expand. And so there's a nonverbal language, both in their body and their face and their eyes, that's going on, that if you're alert to, and if you're interested in that person, and that close, that intimate space, something begins to happen. And they begin to open up, and as your interest in them is genuine, they begin to expound. And so I was able to get stories from people who are professional like myself, interviewers, tell the same story in some variation to numerous reporters. I didn't want to hear that. I got Leonard Nimoy, a guy I've known for 40 years. I got him to tell the story of his grandfather, who was a leather worker. When Leonard would come home, his grandfather would put his fingers inside his shoe to see how the leather was and the sole, to see if he was working or not. The condition of his shoes told his grandfather the condition of Leonard. And he said to me later, I've never told that story. But what an intimate, beautiful story it was of a man's existence and a relationship to somebody else. A total insight based on interest the person talking to interest and perception of what was meaningful to that person. So in 39 interviews I did, every single one of them, I had Rush Limbaugh crying over some childhood memory. It was an extraordinary moment in my life, those interview shows, in which I found I was able to touch the soul of another individual. It was extremely meaningful to me to be able to do that. And thank you for asking me about that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
And by the way, continuing that facility, I began to make documentaries. And I made a documentary called The Captains. So I talked to all 4 of the other captains, Patrick being one of them, flew to England. Let me tell you the story of it. I flew to England. I had to fly to England to interview Patrick Stewart, and I needed an airplane. We had a crew. The cost of getting on a commercial airplane, the time, the energy, couldn't afford it, both on our budget and the time. I call Bombardier here in Montreal, one of the great companies in Canada, a great enlightened company, Bombardier. They are one of the top airplane manufacturers, light airplane manufacturers in the world. I don't know this guy from Adam. I don't know who I'm talking to. Can I talk to the head of Bombardier? Well, who do you want to talk to? No, I'll talk to the president, Shatner, and Shatner, okay, I'll talk to him. So I get on the phone with the head of Bombardier. He said, well, I said, I need an airplane, and I got to fly, and I'm doing this, and I got it, and I'll publicize your company in the. He said, well, let me think about that. He thinks about it for about a week, comes back, says, you got an airplane. He lends me a large airplane to fly, not only to Patrick, but to other cities in the world. But I fly from Los Angeles to Toronto to meet him. And I meet him on the runway. He comes up, and he says, if it wasn't for you, Shatner, I wouldn't have been an aeronautical engineer. And if I hadn't been an aeronautical engineer, I would never have become head of this company. He says, that's why I'm lending you the airplane. Isn't that a wild thing? So that was all part of making the Captains. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Shatner.
Hello, my friend.
Basically, I was wondering if you had questions for me. I'm the guy who gave you the cigar box.
Okay. I love a great cigar. Okay? Legend has it that a great cigar in Cuba was rolled on the inside of the thigh of a woman who was rolling the cigars. Are you aware of that legend?
No.
No? You weren't aware of that legend?
But I like it.
Well, I think that's why the legend is there. The thought of smoking a cigar that's been rolled on the inside of the thigh of a lovely Cuban lady is as equally enthralling as the smoke itself, I think. So, why are you carrying around a cigar box with 2 cigars when you handed me a cigar and we held it for the picture, and then you took the cigar back?
My cigar back. I gave you your cigar.
I know, I was going to continue that. He took the cigar back, and I thought, oh dear. We took a picture together with 2 cigars, and then he took the cigar back. But then he put it in this beautiful wooden box, and he handed me the box.
Yes.
Now, why did you do that?
Well, I made the box.
You made that box?
Yes, I did.
It's full of cedar, and it keeps the cigars fresh.
Well, I had the idea from, recently I read an article in Cigar Aficionado.
Where I appeared on the cover. Yes.
And you were saying that you got a lot as gifts. You were, at that time, filming Boston Legal.
Yes.
And so I thought about just a small travel box for people to carry them around.
It's beautiful. You should sell those. They're beautifully made.
I am selling those.
That's the story of my life, okay? I he does a nice, kind thing. And I say, why did you do that? He says, so I get publicity.
No, but I had the idea, so I thought that from your article, so I thought that it would be nice to just...
It is beautiful. Not only is it beautiful, it's made of good, sturdy wood, so I can pack it, and it won't bend.
That's it. And for you to remember your roots, it's made of Canadian maple and Canadian walnuts.
That is beautiful, man. And you deserve, as an entrepreneur, that's English and French, right, to make you sound. You deserve the publicity. You selling them out here?
No, I'm not.
Where are you selling them?
I started my company 1 year ago. So
and where is your place?
I live in South Shore, on the South Shore Saint-Jean.
Yes, but
vous
vendez le vin?
Oui, je vends. Je l'ai fait sur mesure.
Où?
On the internet, or I make things.
What's the internet address?
My company is Smoking Wood, Ébénisterie Smoking Wood, so smokingwood.ca.
Perfect. If anybody are interested in a cigar box, he makes a beautiful product, and I thank you for your gift. It was beautiful. Thank you. Merci. Next question.
Okay, hey Bill. First thing, this is odd. I just wanted to tell you this, that apparently my grandmother taught you in elementary school, back at Baron Bing. I think this was grade 5 geography, possibly grade 6, but it's 20 years too late to ask her. But yeah.
No, it's not too late to ask her, and I'll tell you why. I never went to Baron Bing.
Yeah, that's the story.
I know. Somehow I was removed from West Hill High School and Herbert Simons. Are both those schools? Well, I know West Hill is no longer with us.
Yeah.
But Baron Bing, I never went to. I never got. I lived in NDG.
I asked my father where she taught, and he said Baron Bing and a couple of others. Yeah.
No, they're liars.
Oh, well, anyway.
Your grandmother lied.
I'm sure she did.
And you can go back, you got to go over to the gravestone and sit there and meditate and say, Grandma, why did you lie to me?
Yeah, it's the story, of little William Shatner who grew up to be such a big star. Anyway, more to the point, this is a question more about, well, I know that when you started as Kirk, this was, just a job. Actors are whores, as the saying goes.
That's all right.
So when did you realize that Kirk had become more than just a role, but an actual, a cultural phenomenon, a thing that's shaping the world?
Well, we did 3 years.
Right.
And at the end of the 3rd year, on the last show, I think I had the flu, but we had to continue on, so I had a bed right on beside the camera, and I'd get up out of the bed and go do whatever I had to do and perform, and then go down and lie down again. And then the shooting was over, everybody cried, the show was moderately successful in the top 40s or something like that. It wasn't very popular, and it died like unceremoniously, okay? It just petered out.
Right.
I'm skiing. I think it might have been Saint Sylvain. Could have been Toronto.
Okay.
Or it might have been in the States.
Of course.
But I've skied in those areas, so maybe it was. And a guy comes up to me and he says, did you go to the bar and, Smith's Bar? And I said, no, what's there? He said, they're playing what seems to be the outtakes of the things you guys did during your 3 years.
Well, all right. This is like in what, 72?
Yeah, well, between the 1st and 2nd year, and the 2nd, 3rd year, there was Christmas. So our editors put together outtakes of things we did when I was kidding around. I'd bump into doors, I'd slam into things, I'd say the wrong words, and it was funny to us.
Right.
So the editors put all these funny things together, made about a 20-minute film each year, a different 20-minute film, and they played at our Christmas party. And we'd laugh, Shatner cutting up again. At the end of the 3rd year, it was all over. Everything disappeared. 6 years later, this guy is saying they're playing these outtakes at a bar. Nimoy sued over that. Like, how did you did that without our permission? We looked like idiots.
Oh, dear.
No, we looked like idiots. We were idiots.
No comment.
No, I'm commenting. How can you do even worse? All you can do is agree with me. Say yes. Yes, sir. There you go. And that's when I thought, why are they doing that in a defunct show that I've long ago forgotten? And shortly thereafter, they began to talk about another series or making a movie or movie of the week. And then they made this giant movie with Robert Wise.
And the conventions.
And the conventions and all. And that's when I started to get a sense of it.
It's spun out of control.
Spun out of control.
Yeah.
Story of my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Shatner. My son is an aspiring actor. Actually, he's just been accepted.
I feel very sorry for him.
He's just been accepted at AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy,
really?
LA and
fantastic.
And New York, and he'll start next year once he finishes his CJEP. He's just turned 18.
Oh my gosh!
And he knows he's in for a rough ride. That he's going to be having a life of going from audition to audition.
That's right.
And the best piece
on
of
the other
advice,
hand, he may hit big next week and be a star overnight.
That could be, but I've always told them, well, follow your heart, but use your head and maybe have a plan B. And
that is exactly right.
I'd like to know.
Take film of me saying, that's exactly, what's his name?
Adrian.
Adrian, listen to your daddy.
Now you, with hindsight, being one of the few successful elite actors who no longer has to wait on tables to follow your passion, what piece of advice could you give him in addition to what I've given him?
Well, I tell you, in this caleche with Patrick yesterday, it does seem funny, doesn't it? Patrick and Bill in a caleche with a big Belgian horse pulling the caleche, and all the horse wanted to do was gallop. And Pierre was pulling him back. We were talking, Patrick and I, about how lucky we were. Okay, luck in our life is a huge factor. Yes, all the phrases of being prepared and you make your own luck and be ready for when luck hits them, all those things are true. But the fact of the matter is, there's an element of luck. Some people call it God. I don't understand that, because why would God choose you and not you? But, you know, I think it's chaotic. My opinion, it's chaos, and you get lucky. And luck is a huge factor. Winning the World Championship a couple of weeks ago, I saw Mr. Bones coming. I came around at exactly the right time. I saw this horse there. I thought, oh my gosh, I think I can overtake him and do it better. And it was lucky that I won the World Championship. It was lucky that I was there at this particular time. I worked hard. I've struggled for many, many years in semi-poverty, and especially in anxiety about being poor, so that I had maybe $1,800 in the bank, but I could never get above it. And I had 3 kids, and I had to pay the rent, and I didn't know was I going to get another job, and would I get another job? So the fear and the anxiety consume you. So people say, the other day somebody says, are you on vacation? I said, actors don't take vacations. Actors are given vacations. You wait for the job, no matter how big you are, no matter what caliber you are in the acting world, you're still waiting for the job. Luck is a huge factor in our lives, whether it's our health, our job, our relationships. Luck plays a huge factor. Yes, be prepared. So, the best advice is the advice you gave your son. Have a plan B. The pivotal moment that you and he will face. He's 18. I think around 29 or 30, about there's a pivotal moment where you say, am I going to make it, or am I not, or shall I give up and go to plan B? It's when you go to plan B is just as important as when he's going to school at the age of 18. That's a critical moment, because there are many, many people who become enamored of the life of an actor. Like, you don't have to work all the time. When you work, you make good money, and then you don't work. Some people get enamored of that, so you don't have to go from 9 to 5. And you live on unemployment insurance, although I never I never took a check for unemployment insurance, even if I was unemployed. But you can be seduced by the life of an actor, even though you're not acting. So caution your son about luck, about being prepared for luck, and about the fact that he needs a plan B.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I just want to thank you for the advice, because my friend and I, who's in the audience somewhere, we're studying theater right now, actually, at John Abbott, so thank you for that advice.
Well, let me tell you also that studying theater is a beautiful thing, and it doesn't mean you're going to be a star actor or a character actor that works all the time. It can also mean appreciation of theater. It could also mean backstage. It could also mean being a writer. It could also mean being in advertising and using the stuff. I mean, there are many, many avenues open to you with that theatrical background that you don't have to stick to the one thing. You can leave yourself open to go to avenues that you might consider if it wasn't just exactly that. So studying theater is a beautiful thing.
I absolutely love my program, and I wanted to ask you a favor. Could you yell "con"?
What's the inner meaning of that? She wants me to yell "con." I don't want to yell "con." I mean, she said, wait a minute, no, wait a minute. She's a nice girl, and she's studying theater, and she wants to be uplifted. Yelling "con" isn't going to do that. It only means I'm going to sort of demean myself to make her happy. Why would I want to do that? She's a stranger. I don't even know her. I never yell "con" to my own children. Why would I yell "con"? This is not a good thing for me to do. To say "con"! No, I don't want to. What has that done for you? Did it give you a little shiver of delight?
Just made me happy.
Well, then I'm glad I made you happy.
Thank you.
You know, there is something about Canada that is so charming and endearing. I tell you, I mean, to me, I don't know, am I crazy? For her to say, "It made me happy." That's so Canadian to me, right? It's simple and beautiful, and it's great, yeah.
Hi there.
Hi there.
It's great to meet you.
I'm sorry.
My name is Brian. My name is Brian Singleton.
Hey, Brian Singleton.
Thank you. I'm an independent filmmaker from Ottawa. I go to school at Concordia here right now. I met you. It's a good school. I met you last year at Fan Expo, and I gave you a Blu-ray of my new feature film.
Oh my
called
gosh.
Werewolf Fever. And I'm wearing a t-shirt of it
I
right
just
now.
enjoyed that so much.
Did you seriously watch it?
No, I didn't. Why did you accept the first statement and not question me? See, now you've been leveled. You watched it. And then you said, "Did you really watch it?" No, shit.
I would have been really, really happy.
Well, I lost
I didn't
it.
expect you to watch it.
Well, then there you are. I met your expectations.
I know I'm just a face in the crowd, but just pretend you did. That's great.
Okay, I did. It was wonderful, and I particularly liked the third scene.
Wonderful, thank you. I tried really hard for the third scene. So,
but let me tell you that being an independent filmmaker, being as young as you are, and being as independent as you are, and going to Concordia, which has a great film school, you are on the brink of success. You're an entrepreneur in films already. It's great. The drive and the energy and the talent are there, and I commend you. Honestly, I mean that from my heart.
I actually I don't go to film school. I went there a long time ago.
Oh, you should have gone to film school.
I've been making films for 15 years. So.
You missed a big opportunity going to film school.
I don't think I did.
Oh.
Now, I'm not much of a Star Trek fan.
Oh, shit, what a shame.
However,
However,
I'm a huge horror movie fan, and two of my favorite films that you've ever done,
Yes.
I love them both, are The Devil's Reign and Kingdom of the Spiders.
Really?
And I would like, in honor of Ernest Borgnine recently passing away, which is sad, in honor of him, could you please tell me something about your experience on The Devil's Reign or Kingdom of the Spiders, because they're fantastic films.
Okay, Devil's Reign. I'm lying on a table, pinned, tied. My arms are tied, my legs are tied. I'm like being sacrificed. And I've got a little piece of cloth in a strategic spot. My knee, so you don't want to look at me. And they've hired, I didn't know this, but they've hired a girl who was a Playboy bunny, okay? And there's a photographer on the set, which is down in Mexico. We were in the middle of nowhere. And so there's this beautiful girl in a brief costume and me with this strategically placed piece of cloth. And I'm tied down, I can't move. And the photographer is there, okay? I don't even think in these terms, but you already know what's going to happen. She grabs me by the piece of cloth. And the guy's photographing. And I realize what they're up to. I mean, they're going to publish that in Playboy. Grabbing me by the cloth. And I'm a man of the cloth. Well, I struggled up and I grabbed the guy and I was giving me the film. And it was horrific. Well, it wasn't that horrific. I could see by your reaction is, what's the guy complaining about? But it was pictures I was complaining about, not the girl. That I remember. On Kingdom of the Spiders, I gave myself a problem. They were tarantulas, okay? And they're stinging tarantulas. They don't kill you, but they can make it painful. And the whole idea was the tarantulas were going to envelop the house. And I picked up a tarantula and I thought, wouldn't it be a great shot if I had a tarantula on my face and the camera's down there and I fall into camera and the tarantula walks off. Now this is before that kind of special effects that they could have had now, not then. So I had to figure out how much glue and how long the glue should last to stick the tarantula to my face and fall into camera and go like that, which would activate the tarantula to walk off. Totally crazy, because tarantula hair is part of what itching powder is. 6 times I fell to the ground with the tarantula. Sometimes it didn't go. Sometimes it went too soon. At the last second, I stuck it, 1, 2, 3, fall into camera. The camera sweeps over, picks it up. I go like that. The tarantula walks off. And the guy taking pictures was on camera. He spoiled the shot.
That's a tragic story.
You had to be there to understand how tragic it was.
Do you remember the last shot of that film? The big crane or wide shot with all
the wide shot with all the tarantulas.
Yeah.
It was horrific. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
It's a great movie.
This was sadly the last question.
I was going to say that. Why are you here? There's a voice over my head.
I couldn't resist.
It's on my conscience. It's like my conscience clapping. What was I thinking? I'm thinking maybe this should be the last question. Last question.
Good day, Mr. Shatner. Countless people have imitated.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't do that.
That was going to be my question. So many people have done it. Do you find it more amusing or annoying?
It's more annoying, okay? I don't know. I hear that coming out of you. I don't recognize it, but it was very good. You were really wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm signing, I'm photographing, and Patrick and I are on stage, I believe at 7:30. We should have some fun. Come on back. It's been a joy to be with you. Thank you so much.